We discussed before in a previous video which commanders are worth awakening as soon as possible and which commanders are not. So I figured it's time for us to update this list since the introduction of Ferrando and Theodore, and some meta changes as well have happened where some commanders have become more valuable while others have lost their value slightly. So stick around in this video because we'll be breaking down which commanders are worth awakening as soon as possible and which commanders can be delayed and worked on slowly, and which ones can be left at 5.1. What is up, guys? MEOWER here, back with a brand new Call of Dragons video. So, as I mentioned, we did a video previously where we mentioned which commanders are worth awakening as soon as possible and which can be worked in over time and which you can just work on or leave at just 5.1 perfectly, suiting to your needs and your current state of spending, your account, etc, etc, etc. So I figured it's time for us to update this list since the introduction of Ferrando and Theodore, and as well as some changes in the meta in open field combat, and rallies, and Call of Dragons in general. So before we get started, please don't forget to drop a like, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. So starting off, we'll be looking at the commanders that are worth awakening as soon as possible, i.e. commanders that are just so strong that their awakened skill is worth getting towards as soon as possible, starting with Canara. Now, I mentioned before that Canara is one of the best commanders in the game right now and is a core for any archer players. And the reason for that is that her skills all provide insane value, and her Awaken skill applies a defense break which gives her more synergy with other commanders, and as well as unleashing the OP Husk Canara counterattack build, which will lead us into Husk as well, being an Awaken ASAP. The reason for that pairing as well is, and I want to emphasize that part, is that they also work on the defense break part from Rattle Spear. They give a defense break. It gives a defense break buff, which works on their counterattack, mind you. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. You know, it's my favorite March by far. But moving on, I don't want to talk too much about it. Next up, we have our favorite crazy mage, Lilia. Now, Lilia is a strong commander. Don't get me wrong; she's extremely strong. But I wouldn't put her in an Awaken ASAP. While she is a core infantry, she is a core mage, I wouldn't say that she's worth spending on 185 bucks if you're on a budget, since her Awaken only adds another target for her AoE, and if you are on a budget anyways, you're probably not a T5 player or a core rally leader or just the average little Timmy that plays the game. Plus, she has a useless skill, the peacekeeping skill, so you might get a bit unlucky on the money you spend, especially if you're not on budget, and you're only really getting an extra target when you're hitting. So, yeah. Next up, we got Baki. I mentioned before, Baki is not really worth awakening or rushing to awaken, mainly because he's got a very useless second skill, and his awaken is not really that strong. His awaken skill only adds an extra 100 damage factor, and it increases the HP by 10%, which is pretty massive. But granted, you are wasting a lot of tokens on a peacekeeping skill as well, which you could be using to awaken other OP commanders such as Emrys or Ferrando if you are a Cavalry player, which is why Baki is going into the meh tier. He's not really a 5-on-1. You should work on him actually, not just throw him there. But yeah. Next up, Emrys. I mentioned right now is playing Baki. Emrys' Awaken skill is one of the best Awaken skills in general, because if you have Passion and you are hit by a normal attack, you increase rage accumulation. And if you already have Passion, you get a flat 100 rage, which turns you into an absolute rage engine choo-choo that just spams skills over and over and over and over and over again, making him one of the core cavalry commanders in general for any cavalry marches. So he's definitely worth awakening. I might even awaken him even though I'm not a cavalry player. So that. Next up, we got Freya. Freya's awakening skill is bad. Okay, let me just say it out. Alright? Her awakening skill is trash. Alright? You get 200 extra damage, and you have that's it. You're only getting 200 extra damage in a march that doesn't really rely on damage factors in general, because usually when you're running Freya, you're either running her with Syndrome or you're running her with Canara, which both marches don't really rely on skill damage as their source of damage more than just normal attacks. So even having her at 5-1 or 5-1-1-1 is more than perfect for the current uses for her, unless you are a whale as well. But if you are a whale, then you're pretty much going to have her Awaken. Otherwise, she's going to be sitting peacefully in the 5-1-1-1 tier, as usual. Next up, we got a boy, Garwood, aka Gardaddy, Groot, who, in my opinion, is definitely the dark horse of commanders in this season and in the previous season, and we gotta put some respect on our current three boys' use in the meta and on his name. He's become pretty useful. He's pretty valuable, even though he's perfect at 5-1-1-1-1. You should still work on him in general just to get that extra 200 healing and that extra 2 seconds time of the reducing all damage taken, guaranteeing yourself having a damage reduction while you have synergy with other commanders, aka Meline, and as well as when you go into the infantry tree and you get this talent, it increases the duration buff. So in a way, if you cycle your rage skills correctly with a build, you can have a permanent uptime of having 20% damage taken reduced, or even just having a 1 or 2 second downtime max for this. So that is why he's going on the work on list. The reason why he's not 4 up is because he has 1 useless skill and 2 useless skill in general. So yeah, he has 2 useless skills, but he's still pretty valuable nonetheless just to get on. So he should just be on the work on list. Next up, Rondo, our flyboy, the flying cavalry commander that we've all been waiting for, is by far one of the most broken commanders released to date in Call of Dragons. He's probably up there with Canara's release. So he's definitely one of the most broken commanders, and his Awaken skill is absolutely insanely strong. All his skills provide insane value. He's definitely an Awaken ASAP, no further commentary needed. Next up, we got Theodore. Meh, I don't know. I'm not convinced on him. Maybe someone can break him down better than I can. Maybe I'm a bit biased. I don't know. I don't think he's worth awakening or rushing to awaken just to get an extra 25% less normal attack damage. If anything, cavalry should not be treated as infantry. If this was an infantry passive skill on awakening, I would definitely put it up there, but it's a cavalry, and the tanky cavalry defeats the point of a glass cannon cavalry's playstyle, which forces you to go in and out of combat. So what's the point of being tankier in a cavalry where your entire point is just to go in, blow people up, and try to get out? Getting out does not guarantee you're going to be dealing any more damage afterwards anyways, and from what we've seen in so many choke point combats and small fights and everything, that cavalry don't really get their chance to shine. Maybe in future seasons we'll see them be useful, but till then, it's going to be in the mid tier. Next up in this is definitely a commander that I don't think anyone has her Awaken yet. I mean, they're pretty close to having her Awaken, but her Awaken skill is definitely pretty strong, and once you awaken her, that Infirm will be able to allow you to have a rage cycle that allows both your primary and your deputy to pull off the rage skill between them, because usually there's a 3-second delay between the primary skill activation and the secondary skill activation. So having her like this pretty much guarantees your deputy can make use of this, or your allies marches that are rage cycling with you have this and this, but I digress. I'll just put her on meh, or just a work on in general, because if you're not using your coins to buy her from the Dragon Trail, then what are you doing with your coins? Right? Because once you're done with her, you're pretty much relieved of a big stress of having her Awaken, and who knows, maybe she'll get buffed in the future. We'll see. Next up, the Mommy Meline. Now, Meline is by far one of my most favorite commanders in the game. It's no secret. However, her Awaken skill is not really that strong, mind you, especially because this is pretty nice. Her Awaken skill only augments one of her passives and doesn't really net her a new skill anymore. And that skill is very subpar once it's starting to level up, because it only deals 300 damage, and you're wasting a lot of tokens on her if you are on a tight budget that you cannot really get her up and running fast enough. She's not really worth awakening as soon as possible if you are not a whale. If you are a whale, then she's definitely an awaken and work on, but at best I will have to put her in the work on list, but not really a priority, especially because, well, she works just perfectly at 5-1-1-1, to be honest. So yeah. Next up we got Nika. Nika's values dropped pretty significantly. Like, she's not as good as she used to be, mainly because of the way the map has changed and everyone has gotten stronger, which makes Garwood's value become that much better than Nika in the infantry march. That is why Nika will be put. Oops, that was not intentional. That is why Nika will be put in the meh tier. Next up, we got our favorite archer, Nico. Now, Nico's value has also dropped pretty significantly, with some other commanders have changed so much, and he's not really worth awakening as soon as possible either, so it's just going to be a 5-1-1-1 as well. Syndrome. Now, Syndrome, I was wrong when he came out. I said he was bad and everything. I take it back. I was 100% wrong. Syndrome is one of the strongest commanders in the game right now, and if you leave him unchecked in the open field, he will just melt every single march you have out there. So he's definitely worth awakening ASAP just to get access to that extra 400 damage factor. And all his skills are so good that are definitely worth upgrading as fast as possible, even though he might not have a really useful skill secondary, but still, I digress. He's still extremely strong, and having that extra 400 damage factor is pretty significant, especially if you are a T5 player. So is definitely going to be in an Awaken. I wouldn't say Awaken ASAP because he still has that useless skill, and I don't want to contradict myself. Next up, Thea. Thea is an interesting one, right? Because she doesn't really have a perfect pair, and her Awaken skill is pretty decent. Like, she's an interesting commander, not to say the least. I do have her Awaken. I still use her as a deputy to my Nico. I place them all together, and she just shields the rest of my Archer marches. It's just, she just needs a niche playstyle for you to figure out how to work on her. But if you ask me if she should be worked on ASAP or not, I would say just put her in the meh tier. Like, she's not a priority, but she should be awakened nonetheless. Next up, Meline, extremely OP. Don't really need much introduction or anything. Awaken ASAP, one of the best mage commanders in the game, and his Awaken skill is absolutely amazing, and his entire skill set is absolutely amazing. Definitely an Awaken ASAP commander, and I think I have this here twice for some reason. Let me see if I'm missing anyone else. No, I don't think I'm missing anyone else. And that is the list for commanders that you should either awaken as soon as possible, work on slowly, or just have them worked on passively without any rush or anything. Yeah, on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, any different opinions than me, feel free to drop them in the comments below or join the Discord. The link is in the description. I would love to see you all then. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Meow meow.